My name is Emily Beaulieu. I'm an associate professor at the University of Kentucky in political science. I have done service work for the MPSA. I'm a former president of the Women's Caucus. This year I worked on the program committee. Next year I'm on the nominations committee. I have also had service roles for the APSA, and I was a member of the editorial board for the Women Also Know Stuff initiative, and I'm transitioning to a role as an advisory board member for that initiative. How that organization got started was a colleague out at Arizona named Samara Klar had seen sort of one too many newspaper articles only citing male experts on politics, sometimes not even political scientists, and had had one too many sort of small specialized conference panel of participants come across her desk that was all male. And she took some initiatives, started a WordPress blog site, invited everyone she knew to upload information about their expertise, and that within, I think, about 48 to 72 hours had gotten completely out of hand and realized it needed a little more structure and a little more guidance. And so she reached out to a handful of us to participate as members of what we call an editorial board. It's because the model is something like a resource like you would find with a journal, but to try to collect information about women's expertise, to try to make it as usable and informative as possible, with the goal being that if people want to include more women as experts, either in the media or in our profession, this would be the resource for them to do it. And so that's how it got started, and it's grown. It's only been a year, and it's really grown. And I did bring some stickers this year, which are the hot, you might just get one, which are the hot commodity we've found, and really help with the visibility of the initiative. This was the first year that I attended the annual meeting for COSA and their advocacy day. And I only learned about it because of a call that the MPSA put out for folks in our profession who might be interested in participating, with the offer of some support to do so. And based on that, and the fact that my state was identified as one that it was of particular interest, I went ahead and submitted an application, and I'm really glad that I did. I had never been to visit Congress at DC. I had been to Washington, D.C. before, but never for this purpose. And it was really exciting to meet folks across the social sciences who share a lot of our concerns about the visibility of what we do in the public, as well as federal support for the research that we do. And so it was really exciting to have opportunities to make those connections and to realize how many folks across how many different disciplines are out with the same concerns that we share in political science, and then to have the opportunity to go talk to lawmakers, and truthfully it was aides of lawmakers that we spoke to all day. It felt very worthwhile, both as far as what I and my fellow social scientists who were with me had the opportunity to communicate, but also I learned a lot about different legislative priorities, about the ways that different lawmakers think about federal funding of social science. It was really illuminating. If the opportunities work for other faculty, other political scientists in terms of their time and available resources to be able to attend an event like this, I think they should take advantage of that. I got to meet with Kentucky lawmakers' offices. I also was paired with lawmakers from Missouri, with social scientists from Missouri, and got to meet with lawmakers' offices from Missouri. And I learned a lot, and it felt like a really good opportunity to communicate to the folks who oftentimes make our research possible why that's so important. As much as in the past there has been some tension with certain lawmakers in funding political science, I spoke to every office I went to about the research I've done on the ways that women in public office reduce perceptions of corruption and increase trust in government. Because to me, any lawmaker should be interested in increasing their citizens' trust in what they do. So I think by showing lawmakers that a lot of our work has actual, real, meaningful implications for how you do your job and communicate with your citizens, we can show them the ways that our work can be very useful to them, where they might sometimes feel like we're scrutinizing them sort of unduly. I think to the extent that we can show them how our work could inform their relations with their constituents, how our work could inform evaluating policy, right? So the folks from Missouri in particular, although it's definitely a concern for my state as well, the opioid crisis right now is something that these lawmakers are really worried about, and they need to devise policies to try to deal with. Well, political science has a lot to say about what are going to be effective policies for health-related purposes, effective policies for criminal justice. And so I think by having the opportunity to speak to them, we can communicate directly about some of the possible utility for them. I did find that as useful was the fact that even for those representatives who are maybe not as excited about funding what we do, for example, we met with the Senate staff of one senator in particular who likes to publish a waste report where oftentimes federally funded social science research finds itself being criticized as not important and not valuable. And to have the opportunity to say to that representative, to that senator's office, you know, we absolutely think that the work we do should be subject to scrutiny. And in fact, the research that gets funded through agencies like the NSF is reviewed very carefully. And in fact, the NSF is one of the most efficient funding agencies in the government, right? It sends out a higher proportion of the money that it receives than almost any other federal agency. It's the model for science funding in Europe. It's so efficient. And so we absolutely have no problem with having that work scrutinized, but it is also important to realize that when you pick a study here or a study there, I mean, what we know as good social scientists is that's not representative of what you're getting for that research investment. And so having the opportunity to have that conversation, even with lawmakers who are maybe not as excited about funding as we would like them to be, that felt worthwhile. One of the things we did stress to lawmakers is, look, just like in a lot of the natural sciences, there's a need for basic research that we don't always know what the application's going to be. That's just the nature of science. And so on the one hand, I really do believe that, and I don't suggest sort of thinking about applications and policy relevance. If it's to the extent that it's going to paralyze you and sort of make you unable to do your work, then that's not great. Like, do your work, do it as best as you can. But the more you can think about the social value of what you do, the more you can think about how your work is contributing to solving some of the problems that we grapple with in politics and in society more broadly, then you have these opportunities to communicate that to a broader audience, to get people on board, to show your university how you're engaging with broader communities, to show funding agencies why they should want to give you money, right? So on the one hand, early in your career, you've just got to be the best researcher you can be, however you do that. But starting to think about broader relevance and how you can start to make those connections, that will definitely come in handy as your career advances.